Hey everyone, welcome back to the Scaling SaaS podcast brought to you by Zeno Digital Consulting Group. I'm your host, Brad Cavanaugh. Today I'm joined by Brett Davis, Chief Revenue Officer at Pebble. Brett's been with Pebble since the early days and now sits in the CRO role, owning revenue, pipeline, and how growth actually gets executed. We're going to talk about what that looks like in practice, how they think about pipeline today, and also where AI fits in, both in the product and operationally. So, Brett, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good conversation. So, first, why don't we just get the basic question off the table? Is tell me a little bit about Pebble and what do you guys do?
Yeah, exactly. Pebble's gone through multiple iterations, so I'll kind of do a whistle stop tour from the beginning. But we've been around for about 5 years. We initially started off as almost like an Airbnb, but for childcare, working with nursery providers throughout the UK to allow them to list unused sessions onto a platform so that parents of that nursery group could then book if they were ever in a pinch, had to go to the office last minute, etc. Um, Over the course of about 6 months, as that was starting to take off, we uncovered a really good opportunity to start working with children's activity providers, kind of similarly to the initial concept. We worked with activity providers as a marketplace, so allowing them to list unused sessions or potentially activities that they were having a difficult time filling onto a marketplace. And then obviously our intention was to get parents to go on and book. Um, Initially, it was a great concept. Everything was going quite well. Obviously, it was quite appealing to activity providers, being that it was a free service. But over the course of time, we realized that there were a lot of challenges with getting parents to book in the times that those activity providers expected those bookings to actually come through.
Mm.
So if they're taking the time to manage two different systems, they expect us to then deliver, which we were finding difficult. But through the midst of that, we actually uncovered a good opportunity, or I guess a hole in the market, to actually own the entire relationship with those activity businesses. And then that's where our concept of becoming a vertical SaaS platform came into fruition. So now where we are today is we are a business management system for children's activity businesses at the moment, specifically to the UK, but with intentions to take this international probably in the next 12 months or so. So we work with all different types of activity providers, from football, dance, arts and crafts, theater, you name it. We want to be the software that powers those businesses so that they can focus their time, attention, and energy on creating world-class experiences for children and aiding in their development. So that's who we are in a nutshell.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty niche, right? Do you have a lot of competitors out there, or are you seeing? I mean, is this a pretty unique position for you guys?
There's a healthy amount of competition, I would say, which I've always appreciated competition. Personally, I started my career in the banking world, so obviously a lot of banks out there. Then transitioned to
Sure.
fitness, obviously a lot of different fitness routines, and now we're into the software play. But to me, competition has helped us move forward and helped us constantly innovate. And I would actually say that's probably one of our strongest USPs, is that we acknowledge that there's competition in the market, and if we stay idle, our brand will eventually dissolve, right? So we're always on our toes. We're always looking at the competition. It is a very niche industry, so I know we're going to talk about kind of scaling within in a space like this. But that said, I mean, the industry itself is a multi-trillion-dollar industry on a global scale. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to influence this space, and I feel like we're just getting started.
Okay. Well, I didn't do enough research. That's crazy. That I didn't realize that was such a big area. That's awesome.
Yeah. Everyone needs swim classes. Everyone needs dance schools, football schools, golf
Yep.
schools. In my case.
Yeah, that's true. No, makes total sense. That makes total sense. So, all right. So then that's what Pebble is. So for a lot of people, uh, I think, most people that would end up hearing this or listening to this would know what a CRO does, but I think it is a unique role. I mean, people know kind of what the CEO does, the CFO, COO, but CRO is a little unique. So how do you describe your role there at Pebble, and then maybe as a follow up, like what are the main things that you're kind of spending your time on right now?
Yeah. So by definition, I think that the chief revenue officer position is fairly new. I think obviously it kind of started with the SaaS companies, kind of the rapidly scaling companies, and those that kind of have ambitions similar to Pebble. What's nice about the CRO position is that there is no one size fits all. The CRO role will be different within Pebble than it would be at a Stripe, for example, or another well-known software provider. And what I personally appreciate about that is that it is constantly evolving. There is no out of the I would say a textbook job spec for a CRO. And so what my main responsibility is and what attracts me to it is I'm responsible to find ways to get our product into the hands of businesses that we can serve, but then additionally to ensure that on the back end we are providing the best levels of service so they don't walk out the back door. So my role here is to ensure that we are growing and scaling the business in a sustainable way so that not only can our foundation continue to grow and our community can continue to grow, um, but our word of mouth strengthens day over day. And I think that to me is the most powerful thing that we're shooting for. We want our customers to be our best sales reps, and that really is my job. It is to ensure that they have the best experience from the time we first make contact with them all the way through to their 1000th booking with us. That experience, that we're doing our part in delivering the experience that they expect, that they pay for. um, that is ultimately what I am responsible for. So the departments that I directly oversee, it is marketing to help spread our brand awareness, to create lead generation. Obviously, our sales team, who's there to then have conversations with prospective buyers to ensure that we're the right product for them, through to implementation, who is then responsible to ensure that they get brought onto the platform in the right way, that they know how to use the product and get the most value from it. And then obviously customer experience, ongoing customer experience, to ensure that, once they do sign up, they aren't just left in the dust, right? We have a lot of mechanisms in place, both through personal outreach and AI automation, to ensure that we are delivering on a world class experience, which is what we really sell, to be honest.
Oh, like, how you have any time to do anything else. I mean, that's a lot of hats. That you are responsible for a lot of stuff. I mean, when you say, so obviously you've got a marketing team, you've got a sales team. Are you personally, a lot of I've seen is a lot of kind of higher up executives or founders or C level, they do kind of stay involved in some of that business development activities. Are you involved in that? Are you out there talking and trying to gen up business, or you just kind of leave it to your marketing teams and your sales teams?
It's a balance. On one side of it, I want to empower my sales and marketing team to own their remits and be out there and be the face of our organization and have these in-depth conversations, and make sure that they're nurturing these in the right way. Because at the end of the day, as you said, I do wear a lot of hats. I don't want to get myself involved in a relationship with a potential buyer and then not have the ability to answer their questions in a timely manner or go out and see them as regularly as people who are more in a better position to do that. So I want to empower them to be the face of the company. But that said, I don't want to be the one that's just up in the ivory tower. So I'm always trying to uh, ask my team, can I be involved in demos? I do want to go and do in-person visits. Just this past Saturday, I flew up to Scotland, flew up to Edinburgh to do a franchise day for one of our larger customers that we just signed up in Scotland. And the idea of me doing that was to showcase that regardless of who you are at Pebble, we do care about these relationships and we do want to hear what's happening on the ground. Now, one thing I will say is what's becoming increasingly important as our company scales at the rate that we're scaling is that I do need to remove myself from the front lines so that I can develop and design systems and processes that our team can reference, that they can follow, so that they know that they're doing the right things at the right time. So I've had to start to make that transition to working more on the business than in the business, and being someone that does like getting involved naturally in speaking with customers. That's been a difficult transition if I'm being completely transparent, but it is becoming abundantly clear to me how important that is. So that's been my main focus for the last couple of months, and will continue to be until we're in a position that, I feel quite confident that we have as many processes defined as we need to.
Yeah, most of my career I've spent in the process space. Started off as like just a business analyst. Living in Visio at the time. I mean that was creating processes, and I think they are underestimated, or I don't think people really understand the value of having standard operating procedures written down,
Yeah.
processed, thought through, even going as far as like maybe even a Six Sigma or a lean aspect to it, to really get it tight, because once you do that, it starts to build that momentum, and where you're not always having to do exceptions or fallbacks, or things like that, and it's easier for training, those sort of things. So I think getting those processes documented and clear is super important.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we are still a startup, even though we have been around for nearly 5 years. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, we've gone through so many iterations. Our business has changed so dramatically, even in just the past 2 years. And my role is to ensure that everyone is teed up for success. And if we don't have our standard operating procedures documented, that expectation of success isn't fair, in my opinion, because you're kind of just throwing these members of the team into the deep end with false expectations without at least providing a framework. I don't want to hire people and tell them exactly what to do. I'm a big fan of the Steve Jobs motto: "You hire smart people so they can tell you what to do." But it's my
Sure.
responsibility to at least paint the framework and allow them to operate with freedom within that framework. Um, and without that, then it kind of can become like Lord of the Flies to a degree. And it's just not really fair. It's a poor employee experience, which obviously has an impact on our customers' experience, and that just can't happen. So that's where I'm at the
Yeah.
moment.
From a pipeline perspective, you've got you got to get the attention of potential customers. You got to start those conversations, whether it's through marketing or sales. You got to then convert that attention or interest, into actual real pipeline. Like, where do you see the momentum that usually kind of slows? Is it the first or the end, or where do you see that with Pebble?
It definitely is. It's slower towards the beginning, and the reason being is that we aren't necessarily a household name just yet. When we initially
Mhm.
launched, 99% of our sales was through cold outreach. We didn't necessarily have marketing support in the sense of driving inbound traffic or spreading brand awareness, because quite frankly, I don't think we really had brand identity at the time. So we're still trying to figure out, are we a marketplace? Do we work with nurseries? Are we a SaaS platform? So what were
Sure.
we actually going to market with? Now all that's been developed. We have a marketing manager on board who's doing a phenomenal job of creating more awareness. We have a very effective sales team that at least can initiate those conversations. And then once the providers and prospects actually see the product, they see, you know, not only does our sales team make them feel good on how we engage with them, but the product itself kind of does a lot of the selling for us. And so once it kind of gets to that stage, then it's a pretty smooth process from there. So to answer the question, I'd probably say that the challenge is that initial hook. It is the initial booking the product demo, getting them familiar with a new brand, trying to convince them that, yeah, you've been running your business 10 years using a one system, but we think we have a better solution for you, and positioning that in a way that isn't too invasive and acknowledging that this is a thoughtful decision. That's the difficult part. But once we get past that, then I'm not going to say clear sailing, but it's definitely an easier process from there on out.
And these are, if I understand the product correctly, these are business owners of these classes that are provide, like you said, golf classes or dance
Yeah,
classes. So these are big companies. Yeah. So you're not going after the moms and the dads. You're going after the businesses that
correct.
run these classes. Yeah. Gotcha.
Exactly. So yeah, so our platform is designed as a business management tool for business owners or managing directors, depending on the size of the business. So Yeah, it is twofold. The management system serves the business, but our booking journey is one that the parents will go through. Um, but ultimately, yeah, we support the businesses more than anything else.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about AI. So, typically you'll see, what I've seen in a lot of these conversations is you've got a lot of the AI in two areas, right? You've got it, sometimes it's in the product itself, where they can utilize it, and then also the business itself using it, operationally within the company to help
Right.
streamline. I was talking to a CTO the other day, and he basically said, anytime a new hire now comes on board, they get an email account, they get their laptop, and they get a chat GPT account. Like it's
Oh, really?
part of now the tool set that they provide. I mean, we're seeing a lot more of that. What's it look like at Pebble? First from maybe let's start off maybe just from the product side. Are you implementing it in any way in the product side, and then let's move operationally.
Yeah. So from a product perspective, we absolutely are looking to kind of, I would say, adopt a more assertive AI strategy this year. Um, but I mean, at the moment, we have three pillars of stakeholders that can be impacted by AI. We have our employees, we have the businesses that we serve, and then the parents that engage with the platform. Um, I'd probably say we've invested more into our public facing AI. So if a parent, let's say, comes to our website and has a question, obviously we have the AI chatbot, right? That's there that is constantly being trained and being developed. We've then advanced that chatbot to now serve a lot of the providers' queries. And the benefit to that is that if on a Saturday night, that's the only time that they have to do their admin, right? Because typically these are smaller businesses, they're parents, and they're also running a business, full time.
Sure.
10 p.m. on a Saturday might be the only time they can go in and do something. So if they run into an issue, we have an AI support system that can help them resolve that issue instantaneously rather than waiting to Monday to speak to somebody. Now, moving forward into 2026, we're exploring a lot of different avenues on how we can bring AI into the system so that providers don't have to do so many manual steps. I shouldn't say so many, but to do
Yeah.
manual steps like creating an activity, right? So if you go in, you want to create an activity description for, let's just say, a golf camp, we want to give them an opportunity to just type in 2 or 3 words and then it pumps out a decent explanation of what that parent can expect. So now you're removing, you know, a lot of admin time that a provider typically would have spent to do that. And so it's kind of like how long is a string? We're looking at a lot of different areas on where we can inject AI without, you know, I'd say negatively impacting our customers' experience.
Yeah, I think
So
those
yeah,
those
that's kind of
yeah.
we're in the strategy mode, I would say.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I think a lot of those little helps of I think what you were saying is like if someone wants to create a class or something, I think a lot of people, these business owners, they're not marketers, they're not content creators, they don't they don't understand the language. And so it's like, how do they describe this class and all that stuff? And that could be extremely helpful to say, okay, I want to create you know, a pitching course for my, like using my 9 iron better, how would I best describe that? Boom, right there. That probably saves them again, saves them probably 30 minutes to an hour of just trying to go back and forth and no, that doesn't sound good or that doesn't sound right. Or, those are the things, just even those simple, and that's so easy now with
Yeah.
LLM. I say, we keep talking about AI. I talk to people in like the technical space and they're like, would you stop calling it AI? It's not AI, it's LLMs. It's like, it's fine. It's fine. But, those little pieces of help can actually save your customers countless hours of time,
Yeah.
and so just doing those minor implementations can make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we live in a convenience economy and people have extremely high expectations of simplicity. And I really do think that, with the way in which we view our product and the impact we want to have on this industry, we're doubling down on that. We really do want to position this software solution as the most simple and intuitive system out there. And if you don't have elements of AI or LLM, not to offend any CTOs out there, um, embedded into your system, then I think you're going to be kind of fighting an uphill battle. Somebody's going to do it. Someone's going to make it where they can adopt, an LLM, let's say, and uh, cut cut admin time in half for a business owner. And again, with a small business owner, every second counts, especially, majority of our business owners have children. So
Yeah.
the writing's on the wall, that if we don't do this, we will be left behind. And so we are taking that quite seriously. And again, we're looking at it how it impacts all of our stakeholders, employees, parents, and businesses. And with each one, yeah, I think we've started to map out, I think, a pretty robust plan that's going to have a positive impact on everybody that's involved, which is great.
So how about employees? I mean, how are you guys using it internally? Any operational, benefits that you're using for your employees? I mean, have you gotten to that point where, the previous guys that I talked to, I mean, are you literally giving everybody in the company chat GPT accounts or things like that? Or are you
We
just
haven't
kind
got
of
I
getting
mean, I
started?
don't even think we've had to give I mean, to be fair, I feel like all of our producers probably use it anyways.
Yeah.
But, the benefit is that similar to us, we use HubSpot, right? And HubSpot, we're starting to migrate basically all of our different platforms into HubSpot. And the benefits of this is that that tool itself is continuously advancing, and they are similar to what we're doing in terms of putting the activity business at the center of everything that we do. They're putting us at the center of everything they do. And so all of our reps can now manage their lead pipeline more effectively using AI. It can summarize emails more effectively. It can do voice, sentiment analysis on conversations that are having. So we can then look at, all right, well, this past week we had 10 conversations that were really positive. This is what the AI is telling us, and we had 50 that weren't. How do we use that to improve? So I'd say we're using AI, but it is through HubSpot, to our advantage, and that is having a really positive impact on our employees because it is automating a lot of tasks. We are in hyperscale mode at the moment. The volume of outreach expected is extremely high. Um, and so we have to use these automations and this AI to our advantage. Otherwise, we just won't move at the pace that we need to.
Yeah. Yeah, the sales call kind of analyzer, we actually have a product like that we sell, and it is invaluable, right? I mean, it's literally a sales coach right there for you, either right after a call, you can have it, grade it, and you've already built the model where it's, what a good sales call is like, and so it literally grades you on the intro, it grades you on the objections, it grades you on the close. Like
Yeah,
having all of it almost instantly. I mean, right now we've got it where you actually have to like download the transcript and upload it, but we're working on getting it where it's like one of these, kind of meeting note taker type things where it just
yeah,
joins your meeting and it's just, listening to it on the fly. But even just the download and getting it to analyze the transcript is hugely powerful for salespeople. I mean, they get that instant feedback. They're like, oh, that objection, could have been met this way, and then their next sales call is even better, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly.
And HubSpot has that, built in.
Yes, yeah, they do.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so we use
that's great.
HubSpot. We also use a system called AirCall. Both are part of our tech stack. Both of which are great at surfacing kind of all of that data. Um, so we can improve because I mean, the same thing is a lot of people are worried about AI, and the impact it could have on employment and whatnot. But from a coaching perspective, it's a great opportunity. I think back to when I was in a sales role for a lot of years. And you just kind of had to almost coach yourself, or you had someone sit next to you and then give you real time feedback, which is still valuable. But now to use technology in the way that we can, I mean, it's making the sellers more effective. Which ultimately makes a better experience for the customers. So, yeah, we have no intention of deviating from that at the moment.
So outside of sales, outside of HubSpot, are you using it any other way? Operations, support. I mean, you mentioned the product support, chatbot. That's a pretty good one.
Mhm.
Any other ways that you're using it at Pebble?
Um, Not at the moment, and the reason being that I'm not going to say slow, but we deliberately didn't want to inject AI into our product too early, was because we built our foundation based off of kind of our people and the connections that they were making. I think introduced AI into already, I would say, um, an industry that is very intimidated by technology. It would have been too much too soon. So we're disseminating it kind of slowly but surely. So we have plans to use it on the support side beyond the chatbot. Not anything we fully have put into place just yet. But I mean, again, we're acquiring upwards of 90 customers per month, and we only have so many hands on deck. So
Sure.
it is something that we are prioritizing in Q1, Q2 of this year.
Do you see any trade-offs with using it? I mean, obviously there's an upside, but do you see any downsides to it?
An over reliance on automation from a sales perspective, I would say.
Yeah.
It's always a concern of mine. Again, being fairly old school when it comes to selling and kind of the way I had to manage my pipeline. There was a lot of effort that went into nurturing a sales process and a cadence. And I feel like now, if it's not, I can see reps taking advantage of it and not putting in the effort to pick up a phone and make a call because they're going to rely on an AI message. They're going to rely on you know, the technology to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of benefits to it. But I think if you go too far down that path, you can miss out on a lot of opportunities because at the end of the day, especially from a business perspective, they're still going to be buying from people, right? And AI is being used by everybody and is being used by every company. And I'm sure yourself and probably everyone listening to this podcast gets countless emails a day, probably even AI phone calls now a day. And if we don't use our interpersonal skills, throughout that sales process, I get concerned that we will miss out on a good amount of opportunities. So the downside to me would be an over reliance upon it, and potential laziness that could be bred amongst a customer facing professional.
Yeah, I'm with you. So one of the things that we provide is an outbound, AI tool for LinkedIn. But one of the things that we've tried to make sure is that it's not the way that I feel like we've tried to differentiate it is, some of these tools out there like HeyReach and these things is, they kind of put these scripts out there, like it's a sequence and it's just this automated sequence and somebody replies and then the automated message goes out and then they reply again and then there's an automated message that goes and it's just to your point, it's just so canned and automated. So what we're trying to do is provide it as a like a an overlayer to say, here's like similar to what we just talked about. Here's a recommendation of what you can send
Hmm.
based on their response. You have full control over sending this or your words. To your point, you're not relying on the AI. You're using it as a tool to help you because a lot of times salespeople, like you said, you're getting what, 90 customers a month. I mean, to build that type of pipeline to close 90 customers a month, your pipeline must be really, really big. They're talking with a lot of customers, you know, and so having that kind of added tool to help them navigate those, but still
Yeah.
relying on them to do the work. Um, that to me is important. So I'm with you on the over automation. That's where my head was at as far as like kind of the trade-off is you get concerned. I mean, I've seen these have you seen the videos where it's like like in real life conversations but using chat GPT? Like
Yeah.
the TikTok and stuff like that. They walk in for
Yeah.
like a job interview
I have.
and
Yeah. That's good.
me this and like how should I respond and he just they are hilarious but I think it illustrates exactly what you're talking about is I think a lot of people they can't write an email right.
Yeah.
Or they won't be able to right because they'll lose that skill and I think there's a real concern there.
Yeah. I completely agree. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about the overlay, and that's where I think it can create so much value because yes, we do have a lot of leads that we're pursuing at any given time, and if we can have support, from an AI perspective to kind of showcase the ones that have more opportunity than others versus doing it manually, then yeah, absolutely. And but again, I think that's where the reps themselves or people like myself have to coach the reps on how to do that, on how to
Yep.
use this to their advantage, but then also reinforcing that if you aren't authentic, and if you don't personalize these messages in a particular way, it's going to get lost amongst the other, 500 AI messages that that prospect had received in the past month.
That's right.
So it is that balance. I think it's educating yourself on how to use it effectively, but also how to use it to your advantage to prioritize the more promising opportunities versus the ones that have less of a likelihood to move forward.
Yeah. We're coming up on 30 minutes. I want to be respectful of your time because that's the timing that we talked about it. But I just wanted to ask you a couple more questions. So,
Yeah.
like if you were to join a new SaaS company tomorrow, where would you go to look at their, in their go to market motion first to make sure it's as solid as it can be? Its go to market motion is very complex, it's very long, but like where would you want to go nail in on and to make sure that that's going well? Or maybe that's not even a good question. Maybe it's like it requires everything, but like where would you like go in and kind of look at first?
I'd probably look to align the messages that I'm seeing through marketing content and sales content with the ICP that they have, I would say. And are those aligned closely? Because I think speaking from experience, where we've misaligned this, we went into a market with a certain GTM strategy, but we didn't necessarily do enough research on the buying demographic and the buyers themselves. And so we kind of missed the mark, right? So it was a lesson learned. So I probably would start with what messages are going out there with the product that they have, like what's the either the problem that they're trying to solve or the value they're trying to create, and then who are they targeting, and do I think those are aligned or not, is probably where I would start.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It's the foundation, right? I mean, it's if you don't have that foundation aligned and correct, you're going to spend a lot of money on marketing and ads, and you're just to your point, you're just going to miss the mark. You're not going to be hitting the bullseye. You're going to be out in the edges of the target, and you're not going to be getting anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So for one last question, so for someone kind of sitting in the revenue role right now, what's one thing that they could simplify that would probably make him, that they'd be better off for simplifying?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, Better off for simplifying.
Like, I think a lot of time, like, where my head was at with that question is that I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things,
Yes.
in these roles that we have, and so in my head, it's always about simplify, simplify, simplify. Kind of back to your almost the process point, I mentioned lean, right? Like, how can we get away from the noise and narrow in on the signal as much as possible. So from a
Yeah.
CRO perspective, like where would the most benefit come from eliminating that noise?
Yeah. Couple. I mean, if I'm able to give a multi-layered response here, um, I'd probably say if you're in a revenue position, I'll work through channels here. From a marketing perspective, if the brand's not well known and your job is to grow the revenue, start by calling out what your company does on the tin. Don't try to be flashy. Don't try to make your website overly, you know, um, beautiful, right? Literally black and white. What do you do and how can it help the customers that you're looking to attract? Because again, that was something that I don't think we did very well early days. We made everything look really good. You came to our site,
Mhm.
very clear what we did. So from a revenue perspective, without brand recognition, make it crystal clear what you do, who you serve. Um, I would then focus on probably the CRM, if I'm being honest with you. I think over the
Mm.
course of time, we got in the habit of adding property after property, lead stage after lead stage, and then deal stages that didn't really matter. And all of a sudden, you just had a lot of messy data. We had a lot of data, but we didn't know what to do with it. So I would look at how it is that we're managing our leads and our deals and try to simplify the stages as much as I possibly can, and make it very apparent, do we have enough, I'd say, prospects that are within our ICP or not? And the ones we don't, then we do away with. So I'd spend more time on the CRM side of the business as well. And then when it comes down to the actual sales proposition, again, I would just be very, very simple with it, right? It's in our case, we are the fastest moving business management system within the children's activity space. We, have worked with thousands of providers throughout the UK, and I think we can add value to you as well. We'd love to have a conversation about it and just kind of open it up that way, without trying to overpromise, under deliver. Just be very straightforward. We're fast moving, and um, we can add value to you. We think. Let's have a discussion about it.
That makes a lot of sense. Brett, I really appreciate you being here and taking the time and your honest perspective on these questions. They were really insightful for me, and I hope insightful for folks that are listening. I really appreciate it, and thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is great. Appreciate it, Brad.